You know, I'm sitting here looking directly at it and recording this video, and I still can't totally believe that this crossover is real. Hey, welcome back to another video. This time we are talking the DC Sonic the Hedgehog crossover, the first issue of it anyway, because that's what's out. When this little collaboration first started out as just a funny haha little video for Batman Day featuring Shadow as Batman, I was amused enough with that and figured that was pretty much about as far as it was going to go. Maybe they'd do some Twitter stuff or whatever, but never did I expect that they would go ahead and announce a whole full-ass goddamn comic book crossover. And this might not even be the only one, because they've got stuff planned for this DC Sonic collaboration up through next year, so we might even get another one of these at some point. But they did do a crossover, and it's here. The first issue has been out for a little bit, and I've had time to mull over my thoughts and finally can gather them to sit here and talk to you about how I feel about it. Some preamble though, while I do generally have plenty of faith in the quality of the Sonic comics, especially when Ian Flynn or Evan Stanley are at the helm, I was a little trepidatious going into this, simply because the last time a property that I adore crossed over with DC, it was, how should I put this, a complete and total fucking disaster.
I'll be complaining about this.
So, yes, I was optimistic for this, but there's still that little nagging voice in the back of my head that was a little worried this was going to be crap. Well, thankfully, I can sit here today and tell you that, at least based on the first issue, DC x Sonic the Hedgehog is not crap, and in fact, it's actually quite good. Now, I'm not going to be going over every single individual plot point because this is a new book and I want people to go read it, so I'm just going to be going over general thoughts and talking about some plot points, so if you want to go into it with no spoilers, then that's your warning. Maybe skip this video. But if you've already read it or you don't give a shit and just want to hear what I have to say for some reason, then stick around, because here we go. Like I said, this is good. Admittedly, there isn't a whole lot of direct plot stuff happening in this first issue. It's a lot of setup, which I think is fine. We have 5 issues of this. I'm alright with this first one being mostly just lead in and getting us to know what's going on, rather than how we got here and why Darkseid knows about Sonic's world and why he knows about the Chaos Emeralds and all this. This is stuff that we have time to explain as the story goes on. This one is a lot more concerned with getting right into it, and I really do mean that. Literally, the first page is no bullshit, no setup. It's just Sonic and Tails and Amy are having a picnic. Big Darkseid head comes down from the fucking sky. And I always appreciate a story that can just get right into stuff. Obviously, sometimes you need a little setup. A lot of crossovers do tend to like to start in one world and go with a normal story for a little bit before the crossover elements begin, but I appreciate something that just gets right the hell into it. The Worlds Collide crossover for Archie did basically the same thing, where they went right into Eggman and Dr. Wily meeting, and here we get, literally within the first page, Darkseid showing up. It does feel a little sudden, and I could understand maybe somebody complaining that there wasn't at least like a page setting something up, but personally, it doesn't bother me. I like it. It gets right into stuff. We go from that to Sonic and everybody fighting parademons, and past that, it is a lot of that. It's a lot of showing people reacting to what's going on, plus little looks into what Darkseid is up to. You can tell pretty much immediately that he's going for the Chaos Emeralds, especially because they specifically say that the Master Emerald can neutralize what they're searching for, and if you are even a little bit familiar with Sonic and the lore and the mechanics of the Chaos Emeralds in universe, you know that that's what they're referring to. So it's not exactly a secret what Darkseid is after, and I dig that. Right from the get-go, you can tell that this is a lot more of a simple crossover, a lot more of just, hey, we wanted to do a thing, and we're gonna get right into doing it, and not pussyfoot around and waste time. And it very much succeeds in that aspect. It's a very entertaining overall first issue. It feels very like Saturday morning cartoon, kind of, where you've only got 24 minutes, so we don't really, less than that really, so you can't really spend time, giving an intricate explanation for everything that's going on. You have the basics. Darkseid is invading and he's looking for something, and that's all you really need. The rest of it is a lot of really good interactions between the Sonic cast and the Justice League. And by the way, this already has a one-up on the Ruby Justice League crossover, because these are the actual members of the Justice League, not versions of them that have always existed in Sonic's world. They're the real members. Yeah, the interactions between the Sonic cast and the Justice League guys are really, really good. Of course, We had to get a race between Sonic and the Flash. You knew as soon as they announced this was going to happen, and it's so good. They're so cocky and snarky towards each other. They race literally right away. There's an incredible deep cut where the Flash thinks Sonic is a character named Crackle. I am not personally familiar enough with DC lore to totally understand who Crackle is, but I've seen what he looks like, and I can totally understand why Flash would think Sonic is him. And again, that is a super deep cut because as far as I can tell, Crackle has been in all of 8 issues across all of comics history. And that's not even the only time that Sonic and the Flash snark to each other. There is a lot of it throughout the issue. When everybody meets up, when we've got, the whole cast of Sonic and the Justice League, and everybody needs to catch up to it, Sonic goes, "Anyone care to bring us up to speed?" Especially for Flash, since he's so slow, which is just perfect. Like, that is such a Sonic thing to me. And that's not even the only good interactions. All of the ones that we do get are solid. Shadow and Batman have a couple really good ones. There was one of the panels that came out ahead of the actual release that I saw some people kind of dunking on, where Batman is trying to convince Shadow to help them by pointing out how obvious it was that he's lost somebody. He couldn't protect someone that died right in front of him. And it seemed like people were kind of dunking on that panel when it got put out into the wild out of context. But I think within the story, it's actually a really good moment, because as kind of odd as it is to say, Batman and Shadow are similar characters. They're not one-to-one, obviously, but there's a lot of shared DNA there, at least in their backstories. So I think it makes sense that Batman would be able to see the way Shadow carries himself and the way he acts and be able to tell immediately that he's gone through a pretty similar experience to Batman. So within the context of the story, while the idea of Batman sort of clocking Shadow's backstory immediately and almost pepping him up is a little goofy. One, this whole thing is goofy. It's a Sonic comic to begin with. We're getting goofy right from the get-go, but the idea is goofy, and I think that's fine to sort of lean into it. And it is a good moment between two characters that have some shared elements to their characterization here. Plus, the first instance of them together in the story is really good. They both take down this parademon that's about to attack an innocent civilian, and without a word, they both sort of understand each other. It's so good. There's literally not a line of text on that entire page, but you can just read their reactions. Those are, in my opinion, the strongest character interactions, because they're the ones we really get the most of. That's not to say the other interactions are bad, it's just we don't get as much of them compared to the ones between Sonic and Flash and Shadow and Batman, so it's harder to really gauge exactly how well they're going to gel together based on the little bits that we do get. I hope there is more interactions between the other characters in the future. I mean, again, we have 4 more issues after this, so there is time. As it is, like I said, we don't get a lot for non-Sonic and the Flash and Shadow and Batman moments, but it's still good stuff. And that's one of the strengths of crossovers like this, is getting these characters that are so different and being able to see them interact with each other. And I think the strength of character interactions is what usually makes a good crossover a great one. Because you can have a good crossover that's just, here we put these two characters together, they team up and they fight a thing. Like, that can be fine, but you take that and add really, really good interactions between the casts, and you give them chemistry and you give them those shared elements, and now you have a great crossover. So being able to build the relationships between the Sonic characters and the Justice League characters, I think is really going to help this crossover in the future. And I expect we'll be getting a lot of that just based on this first issue and how much just interaction between everybody there was. Darkseid is largely out of focus for a lot of it. He shows up at the beginning to blow up the Master Emerald, and then we don't see him again until the very end, where he's found one of the Chaos Emeralds. So if you're not familiar with Darkseid as a villain, or as a character in general, I suppose, I feel like it would be difficult to truly get a grasp of how big of a threat he is. I do have a general knowledge of DC, so I'm aware of how big a deal this is, but if you were just going into this as a Sonic fan, or like a young kid, maybe, who hasn't really read much, if any, DC, I don't think there's a huge amount of Darkseid being a big threat. But again, this first issue is a lot of establishing and setting up, and a lot of character work. So I'm willing to kind of give that a pass. I think it's still a flaw, but a pretty minor flaw, ultimately, and not something that truly bothers me. And they do at least set up Darkseid a bit. Cyborg and Wonder Woman do some expositing about his whole deal and how big of a worry he is, but we don't get to really see a lot of it. But I imagine, given that he has a Chaos Emerald now by the end of it, we'll be seeing that very quickly within the next issue. The artwork is also pretty solid. Adam Bryce Thomas is doing it. He's come a hell of a long way since the very first issues of the book he was doing, where I felt like his art was not great, and now he's one of the best artists that the Sonic comics have ever had, in my opinion. And the Sonic characters look great here, absolutely fantastic. The Justice League characters, I don't think get it quite as good. They don't look bad, they still look good, but they look just a little off in a lot of instances. But again, it is still good art, nothing is super off-model, it doesn't look creepy or whatever. It's just one of those, they don't look quite right kind of things. And then there are some truly incredible panels, like this one right before Knuckles punches Calabac in the back of the head. Although probably my favorite panel, like the best image in the entire book. It's tempting to go with Sonic racing the Flash because that's just perfect, but to me the best image is this one of Shadow and Batman together hitting that parademon. It looks real cool. There's so much energy to it. There's the motion lines in the background, the energy literally that Shadow is hitting the parademon with, and then the immediately following panel where it is them kind of in silhouette also looks really good, even if the background probably could be a little better, but it almost kind of benefits from having a really bland, for lack of a better term, background like that, because it makes these silhouettes of Batman and Shadow really stand out, and it looks good. So that's largely my thoughts on the first issue of DC X Sonic the Hedgehog. I think it's really good. I'm enjoying it so far. Obviously, there's 5 issues in total. There's the potential for it to completely shit the bed, but I really don't think it will, just based on this first issue. It's very enjoyable, the character interactions are great, I think it's a good setup. I think overall it's a pretty solid introduction to either side of the crossover if you're not familiar with it. It's a little weak on establishing Darkseid for if you're not totally familiar with him, but you at least get enough to know that he's supposed to be a big threat. If you're mostly a DC reader, you get an overall pretty solid introduction to the Sonic characters. You'll understand their deal and what their personalities are like throughout the issue. And if you're mostly a Sonic reader, then you get a good example of what the DC characters are like and how they all act and operate. So you're not really going to be in the dark for any of it. Yeah, it's a really good first issue. I'm excited for the rest of the crossover. It's one of those things that I really wish wasn't monthly because I really, really want to read the second issue already. So if you were maybe on the fence about picking this up or just wondering about the quality, or again, you for some reason cared about my particular opinion on it, then it's good, and I think you should go read it if you're either a DC or a Sonic fan. If you're both, then you really should read it. I will probably, almost certainly really, be doing videos on each issue of this as it comes out. So yeah, the first issue of DC X Sonic is really, really good, and you should go read it. If you enjoyed the video, then please consider giving it a like, it really helps me out, and subscribe if you want to stick around for the future issues of this and any other Sonic comics, or just any other stuff I talk about in general, because I talk about all kinds of stuff. You will almost certainly, hopefully anyway, find something that interests you. Down in the description you will see a link to every single song used in this video, as well as my Blue Sky, which is the platform that I actually post on. I do post on Twitter, but it's just video updates, and Blue Sky is really where I mostly hang out. My Patreon is also down there if you decide you want to throw a couple of bucks my way to support me, but if you are not in a position to do so, or you just plain don't want to, then that is perfectly okay. And just sharing the videos around is more than enough at that point. That is about going to do it for this video. I hope you have a good day, or a good rest of your day, depending, and I will see you guys next time.